All right. And in five, four, three, two.
Welcome to Sustainable Success. Hope everyone's having a great week and had a great Labor Day weekend. We are here in September. God, we're already 9 months into the year. We hope everyone is having a wonderful year this year. Again, if you have any questions in regards to your goals in terms of where you are and where you want to close out Q3 and also Q4, feel free to reach out to us here at the Sustainable Success team at chris@sustainablesuccess.net. If you are new to the show, welcome. We've been here on the Lisbon platform since January of this year, and we've been on the airwaves now, internet airwaves now, for almost, God, I'd say 8 months or 8 years and 2.5 months. It's hard to believe we've been on the air that long. But again, we want to thank those loyal listeners that have been with us since day one when we were on the Voice America Influencer channel and then soon on the Business channel. And now we're here on the Lisbon platform. You could also follow us on Apple as well as Spotify and also on YouTube, where we also have the audio version. We do not have a video version of the show, but an audio version. And of course, we would like you to follow us on Facebook at Sustainable Success 2017. There, we've had many of our great guests sharing their words of wisdom and insights to elevate you and your business to the next level. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. It is a membership program taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. Again, check them out at alumnidirect.com. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about the new diversification, leveraging fractional ownership and wealth strategies. This is really going to be very important especially for business owners. And we have the right gentleman in place to talk about this, Bill Walters. Bill and I have gotten to know each other this year. He's a wonderful guy, got a great wit about him, and he does really spectacular things for people behind the scenes other than being a wealth strategist. Bill is a dedicated financial advisor and passionate advocate for families navigating complex life challenges with a background shaped by personal resilience from overcoming childhood medical adversity to caring for his mother through 6 years of dementia and raising a daughter with emotional, medical, and psychological needs. Bill brings empathy, strategy, and heart to all his work. He knows firsthand the burden of and beauty of complicated family dynamics and his channels that lived experience into every conversation with the families he serves. Before becoming a financial guru, Bill walked a deeply personal journey. He witnessed how his mother's suffering could have been minimized with proper professional care and learned the importance of planning ahead, not just financially, but with the intention and love. Now he's on the mission to help families like this achieve a lifetime of financial stability and solvency. Now, I could keep going on, and Bill's full bio will be in these show notes. So, again, we encourage you later to get in contact with Bill after the show or anytime after when you listen to this on demand, because he is someone you definitely want to talk to when it comes to wealth strategies. And without further ado, we welcome Bill Walters to the show. Bill, how you doing today?
Christopher, thank you for the kind words and introduction. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet your audience and friends, family, associates, and just want to honor and serve them to the best of my ability.
Well, we are such a pleasure to have you here. And Bill, let's talk a little bit about before we get into this fractional ownership, how to leverage it in wealth strategies. Give us a little bit of, we like to get a little background of you, a backstory of you. And I know it was kind of brought up in the introduction here in the bio, but anything you like to share that will set the context of what you're going to share with us today that are really going to help individuals, families, businesses alike.
So the first thing I want to share is that uh, when my mom and dad were living together, they did everything together. And so when my dad passed in 2015, he was on his deathbed. He reached up, grabbed my forearm, and said, "Take care of mom." And I said, yeah, Dad, I got this. And then he really reached up and grabbed me in his Navy grip and said, take care of Mom. And I said, yeah, I answered that the first time, Dad. Right. And I didn't know what that was. Right. And so what he was preparing me for was that I didn't really know how much Mom really depended on him as the rudder for guidance in the household. Right.
Yeah.
So we then move forward, and the next 6 years, with no regrets, Mom lived with me, and I had no idea what that would entail, such as removing fall risk and having a bed alarm and adult incontinence and uh, monitoring medicine allocation and going on doctor visits and planning senior trips, and just organizing the household and getting around the clock care and coverage so that the last 6 years could be truly golden. And it was a big learning curve for me because I didn't know that I was essentially inheriting a 3 year old, back
Yeah.
into life because, Mom was pleasant, but she required a lot of TLC, and we had to do a lot of changes to the house. Uh, put her bedroom on the first floor, put a new bathroom in on the first floor, have hand and lift rails put in so she would
Yeah.
removing all fall risks, uh, watching her, making sure she's drinking enough. So we
Yeah.
have to acknowledge fluid intake, fluid outtake. The adult incontinence diapers, the right ones to get because you want Mom to sleep through the night and not wake up every 3 o'clock in the morning like she did with fear that she was going to soil the bed. So it was like these major concerns. Now, if we had a proper long-term care plan in place, I wouldn't have to jump through these hoops,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying that I still wouldn't have done it. I'm just saying that I didn't know how to set it up. But
Exactly.
but I learned, right? And what I learned, I could then create a game plan for someone else in 10 minutes. This is what you need to do. This is how you set up your book for organization. This is who you call to get day coverage for Mom. This is who you call to get night coverage. There's such thing as respite care, how to put her on a diet that's healthy, that keeps her mind active. What type of foods to eliminate from her diet, what type of foods that you keep in her diet to keep her active, how to keep her hydrated. I can go on forever, right? But in the end, um, it's again getting organized and not making mistakes because you make mistakes out of love.
Yeah. No, it's so true. No, I love how you speak from personal experience. And again, always have the highest level of respect for people that, rise up to, care for their elderly parents. That's not something that's easy to do. And, sometimes it can be very wearing on a person. It's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, it is wearing, but if we go back to my childhood, when I was born, um, unbeknownst to me or my parents, I was born with hip dysplasia. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's just that the balls of the socket of your hip don't properly sit, and you can dislocate them.
Yeah.
And back in the day, and I'm talking in the 60s and 70s, the treatment at that time was 8 weeks bed rest. So Mom had to take care of me, right, for 8 weeks, which means lifting me up out of bed or switching me into, a wheelchair or and then transfer me to the toilet and then changing the channel of the TV, right? Because there was no remote in
Yeah.
that time frame, right? And so it was a turnabout because basically from the ages of 3.5 to 8, I dislocated my hips 6 times. And all
Wow.
6 times I had to relearn how to walk, get my balance, odd man out, how to go to kindergarten in a red wagon.
Mm.
So, when once it stabilized, and then we had the kindergarten teacher had her son, who was a high school football player, pick me up and place me into the cart. And then when school was done, he would pick me up again and put me back down into the cart on ground level because there wasn't ramps going into the school back then.
Yeah,
There were
yeah.
steps. And and that's how I attended, 6 weeks of kindergarten like that. So uh, relearning how to walk, relearning how to get your skill set, being looked at as the one that was different, overcoming those obstacles places you in a different mindset.
Yes, so true. So true. Never, and I hope the listeners that you're listening to this, I mean, this is obviously a great example of resilience and something that, Bill, I mean, you've learned this, throughout your life and something that you instill in a lot of things you do in helping your customers and clients in terms of wealth building strategies. I guess as we now go into diversification, if we're some of the things that you've learned growing up personally and and the things that are important to people including yourself, what can you share with the audience with about this new diversification, like how do we leverage fractional ownership in wealth strategies? If you can give us some context around that.
Yeah, so when you become a fractional or when you leave corporate America to start your own gig or your own small business or your own consulting business or you become a coach, whatever verbiage you use, what you leave behind is corporate America and a 401k. And no one really sits down and tells you the tax implications of a 401k and what to do and what not to do with it. So the first goal is not to use that 401k money as the seed money to start your own business. Because if you take your money out of it, it's taxable.
Yeah.
And you never get to accumulate like that again because that's money that you didn't see, so you didn't spend. So really, the ideal game plan is to talk to someone like me to put it away, uh, and put it away in a growth strategy that essentially triples. I said that triples in 10 years, so that it really grows and becomes a nest egg for your retirement, as opposed to you know just going up and down with the stock market, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is the setup, even though you're just starting out, an exit strategy, right? An exit strategy is when you want to retire or when you want to sell your business and for what, right? And to create a profitable game plan for exit. So when you do sell the business, it doesn't bankrupt it, right? And the third step is to pay yourself. That's right, I said that. Pay yourself on every transaction, even if you're not making money, and making sure that you are paying your bills. And then the last thing, the final thing, the fourth thing is to create a creative way that is both legal and above board to set aside funds to lower your tax exposure in the real time of today with the benefit 5 years down the line. And there's ways to do that as well. So there's four simple strategies that can be done with a simple conversation that most people ignore.
Hmm. Love it. And I know when we come back after the break, you're going to share some more in-depth stuff here. And we have about, we have a couple minutes before the first break. Do you want to, add something that will take us into the next segment, Bill, about what you just shared, or do you want to like sum up what you've shared just in that part about fractional ownership? Again, when people leave a corporate to go into their own business or consulting, wherever that is. Again, if you could share some, insights in the next 2 minutes, and then we can get into more in length in the second segment.
Sure, no problem. So when you're working in corporate America, you are used to having a paycheck, living in comfort, having an expense account, but you have to answer to somebody. And so you're trading your time for money, right? And in that process, you don't have any freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and where you want to do it. And when you change that mindset from being afraid and comfortable to starting your own profession, you're enabling your skill set to be utilized to help others, right? And in that process, you want to create, everyone should create a mindset of success, but that mindset should be one that focuses on the future and not the present. And then operating under a minimal budget in the beginning. And I can go into greater detail, in the future, but it's your mindset that needs to change, right?
Yeah.
At positive outcome, positive results. And so most financial professionals do not talk on mindset.
Yeah. Well,
So,
before we get into when you're going to unpack this further step by step, well, let's start with the mindset when we come back after the break, because I think this is going to be important. And I agree. The mindset is the foundation. It's like if you're building a house, you got to build a foundation. And a lot of people don't take time to think about the foundation and make sure that it's level and free of cracks and holes and all that can cause problems later on. So this is so important. So everybody, I hope everybody, I encourage everybody to go back and listen to this first segment. Bill started off with his personal journey, and now we're getting into the thick of things about the new diversification and how we can use fractional ownership to build wealth strategies. When we come right back after the break, we got more to come with the new diversification, leveraging practical ownership and wealth strategies. We'll be right after the break.
Right, all clear.
All right, excellent. All right, so he's just going to wrap that up, Bill, with the first segment. So
okay.
you want to unpack that? We'll get into the process of what to do, starting with mindset. Okay,
Yep. Is there anything
great.
that you want me to cover in this besides mindset? Because and how long do you want me to work on the mindset side?
Feel free to take it whatever time you like, and then and how that goes into the actual
Okay.
process of diversifying. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how does that help your business?
My business.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I mean, if I now have a right mindset, then I'm going to be able to do the things necessary. They're going to help me grow wealth. I'm going to be more disciplined in terms of what I have to do.
Right. But that's how I want to frame it.
You
So
got it.
I kind of want to go back and forth with you. So
Sure.
yeah, it's just so that it
Absolutely. You could
promotes you at the
definitely do
same
that.
time.
I,
Okay.
I'm good at that. So feel free to do that with me.
Okay.
All right, Chris, ready to roll for the second one?
We are ready to roll.
All right, here we go. Second segment, 16 minutes in five, four, three, two.
Welcome back to Sustainable Success. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the new diversification, leveraging fractional ownership and wealth strategies. Again, this is for you if you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, coach, consultant, fractional CEO, CFO, CRO, whatever that may look like. This is the show for you. And again, we're here with Bill Walters. We highly encourage everybody to go back and listen to segment one, where Bill gives a little bit about his journey, which really gave him the resilience necessary to see these strategies through, and how he helps his clients do the same. Bill, we had went into the break, just right prior to the break. You were talking about the importance of mindset, and mindset is so important. I always see that the right type of mindset is the foundation to anything that we're going to do that's going to move us forward or build something successful from. Can you talk about that when it applies to this topic today and what that is?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to touch on is the fact that one should not be allergic to money, okay? And I call it money festing. And you want to money fest or put out a positive vibe, right? Um, that that when you do earn, that it is welcome. And when it's welcome, you can then live in abundance. And when you live in abundance, you can mentor others, right?
Mm,
And teach them the same. And so it all starts from the beginning of phraseology and mindful thinking and training your mind to frame your words with non-negative thoughts. And so I'm going to give you an example, right? When you want to reach out to a client or a potential client, You want to learn about their situation. You want to learn about what's going on. What have they done so far? And then, but the ultimate question is, where do you want to be? How do you envision getting there? And a positive mindset person will ask questions such as this: what are your goals? And when you attain those goals, what good are you going to do? How are you going to influence others? What legacy are you going to leave behind? And is it okay if you over exceed your own personal boundaries or go through that glass ceiling, that because you're limiting yourself, right? Now, when I say limiting yourself, you don't place limits on, quote, the divine or the universe, right? You just ask for abundance, right? It's just like, in an analogy, if you have blueberry pie and it's an 8-inch blueberry pie, and there's six people there and you know you want a second slice, why are you limiting yourself to an 8-inch blueberry pie when you could just buy yourself a 16-inch blueberry pie and just
Yeah.
take one big slice, right? So the idea is that positive thoughts out, creating a positive mindset, dealing with people in a proactive way, meaning that you're enforcing positive reactions. Positive mindset brings positive outcomes back, right? You're not operating out of scarcity or fear or self-doubt. You're operating out of abundance. And when you operate out of abundance, you're not worried about where the next client's coming from, how you're going to pay your bill, because that fear comes out of your heart and out of your mouth, and it makes the person in front of you jittery or nervous because it's your subconscious speaking to their subconscious. Does that
Mhm.
resonate with you, Chris?
Totally resonates with me. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So when you take that mindset and you move it forward into a business plan, you're game planning for a 1, a 3, and a 5 year outlook for productivity, for lowering costs, increasing sales, getting coaching advice that, or should I say, fractional coaching advice to, because the person that you bring in to build up your sales revenue or to build up your marketing revenue or to expand your business is an expert in that, right? And you go to that expert because they've already been down this path 1,000 times before, and they can shorten the learning curve. And when they shorten the learning curve and then teach you how to frame your future movements through a positive mindset, it's a winning combination. Do you concur, Chris?
I concur 100%. Absolutely.
So, how does that work in what you do?
Well, with what I do is I'm a business acceleration strategist. So in a way that's like a consultant and also coaching, professional speaker, and of course here a radio host as well. They kind of go hand in hand in terms of what I talk on in terms of different topics around business. But for me, I'm in the business of helping businesses accelerate to raise their business valuation. That means they have to raise revenue, they have to raise their net profit margin, other types of KPIs. I also have to be mindful of these things because if I'm not thinking in that way first and how I do that in my own business or in how they do that in my own personal wealth, how am I going to be an example and a resource to do for the people I'm serving? I would be a hypocrite if I were now sharing that and then I'm not actually doing that. So the thing is that I always have to be working on developing me. I have to fill my cup if I'm going to spill onto others in a more positive, effective way. And it's through that discipline and consistency that I do things that are always finding ways to improve, to continue to grow, whether if that's personally, professionally, monetarily, whatever that may look like. That's kind of like how I go about it. And I'm always now, I know that I have to adapt to what is, with the way technology's changing and how things are. So I have to be able to know when to adapt and yet not lose sight of where I'm going and what I'm looking to achieve. So yeah, how we think is imperative to all that. It impacts your
A-
communication and everything.
And the adaption is the key here
Yeah.
because we're coming into an age where uh, the moment you say something, it's already on social media. The moment that you put something out in writing, it's already out into John Q. Public. And the framework of thought and mind has to be in unison with growth and being positive, being supportive, helping others, and putting their needs first is always foremost. But when you take an expert in your line of work and you streamline them, meaning that you create a funnel of championship mentality, right? And you create it, you lower their expenses, you increase their profits, and you're teaching them how to build a machine that is step by step improving every year because you're the coccyx at the top of the row, right?
Mhm.
Directing their movements. And that's where I come in, right? After that, because now that they're organized and their mindset is correct and they have a game plan, now they have true capabilities of really maximizing or manifesting their retirement game plan, how to lower their taxes, how to increase their soft pillow to land on, right? And how to exit strategies without hurting anybody else. That they get theirs, but they maintain a positive outlook and help others stay in the business while they now that they put their time in, they can go and enjoy life.
Mm, mm. So true. I love it. I love it. And thank you for sharing that, Bill, because it's so important. And so now that, if we now develop the right mindset, we're now open to looking at things not just the way we think it should be, but again, from other ways that maybe we're not familiar with that can actually help us, especially from people like yourself. What would you say to those business owners right now listening that what would be those next steps that they can do if they're thinking differently, like, in the present moment and looking at things for what it is, not just what they think it should be? What is that next step that helps them, in this process?
The next step is that the old school 1971 thinking of 401k is the answer for retirement is not the answer for retirement.
Mm,
That there are better ways where you can contribute as a business owner to a retirement game plan, both for your employees and for yourself, that return between, say, 9 and 12% income tax free. And I said income tax free because what do you think is going to happen to taxes after the sunset tax law ends in 2025? It's going to go up, right?
yeah.
And with taxes going up, even if you live in a state like Florida or Texas or New Hampshire where there's no personal income tax, federal taxes are going to go up. So, and they're going to change the classification. So, you want to start grooming your savings for retirement or your nest egg for retirement that grows income tax free, but not called a Roth. Definitely
Mm,
not a Roth. Okay. And that's step one. Step two is that you want to look at your business and see what your personal taxes are, whether you're an S Corp or an LLC or larger, and you want to lower your exposure to taxes today. And there's steps you can do to eliminate that
mm.
as an individual or as an LLC, where you make it payable to an LLC. And I'm happy to give out the personal advice on a one-to-one, but not on a corporate level here because I want people saying, "Well, he said that." No, every situation is
Every
different.
situation's different. I agree. I'm glad that you pointed it out because a lot of times we advocate that here. It's sustainable success. We do nothing cookie cutter here. It's always
Yeah.
about, custom to where that entity is or person is to move forward. No, I love this, Bill. Anything else that you think that is necessary to understand in this process that's going to help us to stick for people to now own it and be accountable?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a rule that I speak about at every public speaking event I attend. And the first thing I say is if you take your entire budget for marketing, it should not be any more. It shouldn't top out greater than 10% of your gross earnings. That's total marketing. So that's what you spend on memberships, LinkedIn, paid ads, travel expenses, etc. Okay.
Mm,
You do not want to, and you need to have on your marketing expenditures a 10x return. So if you spend $4,000 going to an event to speak and being in a hotel and interchange with people, you better get a $40,000 return or it's not worth it, right?
yeah.
And so, and I don't know what industry, because this is all industries, but what I'm saying to people is do not hedge or bet on something you don't know.
Yeah.
So before you join a network, ask if your client, and I'm going to make this up, is plumbers, right?
Yeah.
Ask them how many plumbers are in your group. Well, none. Okay, when you have 5 plumbers, let me know and I'll join, but I expect an introduction to all 5 upon my joining your group, right?
Yes.
It's the same exact thing. It's marketing expenditures. So don't hedge on something that could be, hedge on something that you know is a return. And one last bit of advice for people that are buying leads or trying to find things, make sure that the court of law is in the state that you live in and that there's a penalty clause. What is that? A penalty clause is if they promise to provide you with clients and they don't. What's the penalty? You get your money back. And what are the damages? And you have them delineated in that contract. If they're not willing to sign that, or now their results aren't guaranteed, then they're not the right people for you.
Mm. Totally makes sense. I love this. And Bill, now we're, we got another segment. I want to definitely go into some new stuff that you're going to share. We got about just about like little just over a minute before we go to break. Anything else you want to add to what you shared or again summarize the key points that you covered in this segment?
I think the key points are plan ahead, think before you do, get a coach or a fractional or someone to instruct you who's been down this road in the past. It's don't let pride get in the way of future success, right?
Mm.
And get in front of a financial professional who can guide you both in setting up your corporation and give you a 1, 3, and a 5 year game plan so that when you do start truly earning money, you know what to do with it. And you're
Mm.
not just spending it keeping up with the Joneses and the Smiths, right?
Exactly. Something like you buy something that you and then you end up regretting why you did this in the first place.
Exactly. You don't want to have a midlife crisis at age 55 and buy a red Corvette that you don't need because you already have 2 cars, right?
Mm.
Just because I think I need one. No.
Well, this is great information here. Um, so great. So what we're gonna do is we got to go to break, but when we come back, I want to be able to go back and tie this all together and want to make sure people get to know where they can reach out to you to Bill, which we'll share in the final segment so people can get to know you and contact you. We got to go to break, everybody. When we come right back, we got more to come here with the new diversification, leveraging fractional ownership and wealth strategies. We'll be right back after the break.
All right, all clear.
Excellent. All right. So, Bill, now the last segment, this one will be a short, well, just about 16 minutes. I
Okay.
want to leave at least 2 minutes for you to let people know where you are, what you're up to, anything you like to give them. Gives me 30 seconds to close out. But what do you want to share in this last segment that you really feel is benefit and it also benefits you?
So for me, I think it's the keys to the kingdom. Having multiple pillars of retirement, how to structure that,
All right, let's
uh,
do that.
uh, what long-term care, how to prepare that for yourself and for your parents. Um, I would also say the the scarcity of having Social Security, because if we don't do anything, it's going to be bankrupt in 2035 and people will have to prepare for that, right? So You
Ready when
ask
you
the
are, Chris.
question.
Yep.
Yeah, you ask the questions, and I'll
Yep.
you can rapid fire,
Yep.
boom, and I'll answer, and we'll knock it out and
Yep.
leave time. Okay.
Let's do it. All right, Aaron, we're all set.
All right, here we go. Third and final segment, 16 minutes in five, four, three, two.
Welcome back to Sustainable Success. We've been talking about the new diversification, leveraging fractional ownership in wealth strategies. If you're just joining us, we encourage you to listen to this show in its entirety here after the show date here. It'll be available on demand here at the Lisbon platform, also on Spotify, Apple, and also audio version on YouTube. You could also listen to the show on Facebook at Sustainable Success 2017. We encourage you to follow us on all those particular areas to get the latest updates on all the new shows coming up and an opportunity to listen to all the past shows because there's just a wealth of information there. Again, our show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct, a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together. Also offers a section for professional athletes, those that are transitioning into everyday life, maybe starting a new franchise, a new business, going into a new career. Well, guess what? You don't have to do it alone. You can now come in and generate groups that you can belong to with other professional athletes now transitioning into everyday life. And again, you could do this on your terms. They also have a podcast called From Athletes to Entrepreneur, airs each week. The owner and CEO of the company operates that podcast, named Rob Finkelstein. So we highly encourage you to check that out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Bills, great information that you've shared here on the show. If you could kind of like really like, let, these business owners know, like, hey, if you want the keys to the kingdom, nothing's going to be perfect, but yet if you want to, really make it better than it is now, you got to have a strategy in place. Share some of that with us. And again, how people later in the show are going to be able to get in contact with you for more information that can be custom to their situation.
Sure. The first step for me is just seeing how people live their lives, right? And it's that six-letter word that everybody hates called budget, right? And so if you pull up into a Starbucks line and they already have your order waiting for you and it's a $9 coffee and you're spending, $54 a week on coffee and get no real return on it, that might be one area you want to just tighten up that budget. And if your Amazon delivery driver knows you on a first name basis, you may want to rethink some of your purchasing decisions, right? And if you just curb those two things, you could probably set aside an extra $100 to $200 a week that goes towards your retirement nest egg. And so as we transition, knowing what your retirement budget is, meaning what it's going to cost to live and how you want to live it, and I'm not restricting you. So if you say you need 10,000 a month or 15,000 a month or 20,000 a month, I create a vehicle that's going to get you there, right? So it's not cookie cutter. So you say, this is how much I need. Well, there's a way to get there. And I show you how you can get there. Now, there are two key components. One is tax-free retirement. So when you take withdrawal, and this is the beauty part, Uncle Sam doesn't get their share, right? So what you take out on a monthly or yearly basis is entirely yours. So you
Mm.
get to keep it. The second one is a tax deferred basis, but it's a larger growth strategy, meaning that your savings from an old 401k or a current SEP IRA, which is a business owner's self-funded pension, okay? Um, you want to take that money and you basically want a 2 to 3x it in a 10-year period. And you want to keep 2 to 3x again until you actually need it. And when you have those two platforms, those two pillars for retirement, you're two-thirds of the way there. And then it's your next step is to figure out what that third pillar is. Okay. Now, that third pillar could be real estate, it could be gold, it could be silver, it could be Bitcoin. It's what you like it to be. I can advise you on all those situations. Okay. What to keep, what not to keep. But in the end, you really want to have multiple streams of income and hopefully some of it's residual.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one. Okay. Two, most people don't really consider or even think on terms of long-term care. Okay. And
Yeah, so
70%,
important. Hey, that's going to save you a lot of money on the back end.
correct. And 70% of us, 70, will need some form of long-term care, right? And so what does that mean? Well, first of all, there are ways to get long-term care for your protection that are pennies on the dollar. Okay. Not a direct policy from one of the big corporate insurance companies, but literally 35 cents a month. Okay. That'll give you huge coverage in retirement. What is huge coverage? $10,000 a month, $12,000 a month, $20,000 a month. And what you want to look at is, how do you want to retire? Do you want to retire at home with home health care aides? Do you want to retire in 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 an assisted day living and then you come home to sleep? Or do you want to have around the clock nursing care? Now, a lot of these decisions can't be made in a vacuum. So while mom and dad are still cognizant and sharp, you want to have that uncomfortable conversation and ask them what they want to do. And then you want to get it in writing. And then you want to get them to sign it and you laminate it. And why am I saying this? Because if they're in their late 80s, early 90s, and they're not as sharp as they were, and they're forgetful, you want to say, Mom, Dad, this is what you asked for. I'm following your rules. Okay? So here's some quick advice. There's a 5 year and 1 day look back. So if they own property, okay, they meaning your parents, you want to get the property ownership either into the children's name, which isn't your best alternative. The best alternative is to put it into a trust. Okay. And that
Mm.
shields you. Okay. That's step one. Step two is that you want to make sure that everything, the bank accounts have dual signatures so that they can't get ripped off by answering the phone, or you can't get ripped off because it needs dual signatures on checks going out. You want to take over the accounting and not be a jerk, meaning taking money from mom and dad. You want to just help them. Okay. Create a savings plan, let them live life the best of their abilities, because it's not your money, it's their money, it's theirs to spend. Okay. And do not get in an argument with your family members over who gets what. Be civil. Life's too short to worry about these things. Everything gets divided equally. I don't care who gave, who didn't give, who had a tough life. Just make friends ahead of time so there's no arguments. Find out who mom wants to give her brooch to, who wants that article. Okay. I've seen these arguments 1,000 times. It's not worth the aggravation. Okay. It's just not, right? Life's too short. Find out what everybody wants. Find out what mom and dad want to give, and then honor them by treating them truly golden and getting them to see and do things that keep them happy. Okay. So again, there's a way to do long-term care, and it's not with a long-term care plan. It is to get it set up separately through a specialist like myself. It's going to cost you pennies on the dollar. So instead of costing you $250 to $400 a month, it's going to range around 70 to 80 cents a month. Okay, literally huge savings, same amount of coverage. Okay.
Wow. Love it. And I hope everybody, is getting some, really great value. Again, this doesn't have to be hard as you think. When you have the right guidance and you have the right plan in place, these are the things that can help. Now you see the long-term picture and able to, look at certain things that you could have if you just plan ahead. So I love that, Bill. What could be some other, any, as we, get towards the end of the show here, any other sound advice for business owners? Like maybe what could they be doing when they know they're going to be exiting their businesses? Is there anything they should be doing there that's going to help them with their amount of money that, are there any things that you could provide insight there they should be doing before they, in the next few years before they actually exit?
Well, I think there's a couple key strategies. One, does their family want the business?
Yeah,
Right.
that's always work.
Right.
And you believe it or not, you'd be shocked that nowadays, You're finding a lot of times in these situations, the kids don't for some reason, and now you're like, what do I do? Yeah.
Right. So, and the second thing is that if you have trusted employees, you may want to ask if the employees want to take it over. And you can have an employee take over the business, and therefore they're the owners, right? So
Mm.
they're going to care. And they get stake in the ownership. A third thing you can do is you can hire an exit strategy professional, and you can even ask your your fractional coach who would they recommend, or you can ask your financial professional who they recommend, and they'll give you strategies, a 3 year or 5 year strategy to increase profits, to lower costs, to make it more affordable. Also, if you're the key employee, you may want to get key employee insurance to make sure that you are healthy and stable. Because if you go down during that exit strategy, so might the business and that nest egg. So you want to have these things in place. But bottom line is that everyone needs a good accountant with a good personality. Okay. You don't need the guy that's like watching paint dry or grass grow. You need someone that's going to grow with the business and has forward thinking. So I'm telling you not to get the guy who's above age 55 set in their ways, but somebody younger, more progressive, more hungry, and will do things in a different, will view things through a different lens. Okay. Not a standard lens, open to change, open for growth. So now you're using a combination of three brains, right? You're using someone like yourself, you're using someone like me, and you're using someone who is a seasoned financial professional. And then you put the three minds together, anything's possible.
Mm. Yeah. Love that. And it is it's you working with the people. It's got to be like a team approach here when it comes to that, and it's so important. And the sooner you get on it, the better. I would have to say, don't wait till the last minute like a lot of people do. This is
Yeah.
something you do it up ahead of time. It's going to definitely help you on the back end for sure, no doubt about it.
Yeah, when you do an exit strategy, it's for a 5 year window, not a 2 year window.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to just figure on, hey, everyone needs to follow this game plan. Well, there's no magical game plan of 5 years. It could be 3 years, but the longer that window for exit, the better the results will be because you get to put procedures in place and protection plans and things like that. Even in a down economy, a plan to move forward is better than no plan.
So true. So true. Golden information. I love what you've shared here. Bill, as we get near the end of the show, I personally want to thank you for sharing this valuable information with our audience here and those that will be listening later here on the show, and not only from myself, but the whole team here at Sustainable Success. I want to just give you the next couple of minutes to share with the audience, like, where can they get in contact with you, the different places they can contact you, what are you up to in this area, and then anything you like to offer or provide them that can help them with what you shared here today.
So, as we stated earlier, my name is Bill Walters. I answer my own cell, which is 267-278-5062. My company's name is called Perfectly Imperfect Families, plural. So it's just www.perfectlyimperfectfamiliesplural.com. And the best way to get a hold of me to discuss our strategies is to book an appointment. There's multiple ways of doing that, especially if you go into the show notes. Here's the key. The key is that every situation is unique, right? And when you look at the possibility of Social Security not being there in 2035, and you need to have a nest egg that doesn't include Social Security, there's ways to game plan forward, right? And the safest way is to create something that you're comfortable with. And then you get alternatives between the good, the better, and the best. And you decide which one you want. a good retirement, a better retirement, or the best retirement,
Mm.
right? So they come with sacrifices. Some are hard, some are easy, right? It's just a matter of deciding what you want, right? So don't let self-doubt creep in. Keep a positive mental outlook. Open mind and an open heart lead to positive results.
Mm. Powerful, powerful stuff. Love what you shared. As we have about a minute left, I'm going to have 30 seconds to close out. The next 20 seconds, can you share one final high impact thought with our audience?
Stop the self-doubt. Stop questioning yourself why and move forward with believing in yourself and dare I say, pray on it. Okay. Focus on those things and see where life turns out. Okay. Because if you interact with these professionals, such as the people on this broadcast together, as well as a good accountant, bounce your ideas, it'll work out.
Awesome. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time with being with us here today. We are so grateful for you.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate the open forum and love the opportunity to share.
Well, thank you. And we highly encourage everybody to get in touch with Bill. If you come through us, we'll make sure that we forward you to Bill's information. All of it's on the show notes in the Lisbon platform for this episode. And we want to thank you, listeners, joining us each and every week. Again, we are committed to your success, getting to the next level. Feel free to reach out to our team here if there's any content you'd like to see seen on a future show. And until then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week at the same time. Take care.
All right, we're all clear. Great show, Chris.
Awesome.